Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm very happy to have you guys here. In today's video, I want to cover the last 5 fragrances I have tried from Rogue Perfumes. Now, in case this is the first time you hear about Rogue Perfumes, in case you haven't watched the 2 other videos, I would highly encourage you to start with the first video because there I go in depth a little bit about the brand, where they are based, what kind of fragrances they offer, what makes them stand out, let's just say to other brands that have inspirations. So make sure to watch the first video because I don't want to repeat myself. But like I've mentioned, today we have 5 fragrances left and this marks the end of all the decants I've tested so far from the brand. I'm hoping to test more because I really want to test their inspiration of Burberry Goddess. So let's start first with Colossal. This I think is the most masculine. Yeah, like the most typically masculine fragrance. Again, I don't think this is... First things first, I don't know if this is an inspiration, but I will tell you what kind of fragrances this one, Colossal, reminds me of. And second of all, I think this one is not even listed yet on the By Collections website. For some reason, I was not able to find it. But anyways, like I've mentioned, let's start with Colossal. Let me just spray it on a piece of paper. So all these fragrances, I've tested them. This is not the first time, nor the second time, nor even the third time I'm smelling them. No, Colossal opens up refreshing, cooling, masculine, a little bit green, something peppery. I pick up elemi resin. Something a little bit lemony with a gentle bitter undertone behind. Something a little bit green. Yeah, for some reason it reminds me of fragrances like Terre d'Hermès from Hermès. So, you know, something a little bit spicy with something a little bit lemony, something a little bit bitter. A tad refreshing, a gentle woody accord that grounds a little bit the notes, but it feels quite refreshing. It has this refreshing, fresh effect about it, but not in a blue way, in a peppery, citrusy, bitter way, if you know what I mean. So it's a little bit more green refreshing than anything. Yeah, you guys, this to me is that fragrance that embodies that manly man kind of energy, you know? It's not that very gentle, cleaned around the edges, polished type of blend. I don't know why I would picture this fragrance on a man who... How to describe it? So I would picture this fragrance. Let's just say you're a man, okay? You like to take care of yourself, but not... you're not... let's just say ultra passionate about this, you know? You're the kind of man, like you take a shower daily, you apply deodorant, you trim your beard every now and then, you get a haircut, like nothing wrong in the hygiene department, you know? But you're not really one to, I don't know, like trim your eyebrows, dye your beard, you know, go epilate or anything like this. To me, this is that kind of fragrance that I would picture it on that typical manly man, you know, the one that doesn't spend all that time, I don't know, like taking care of little details, let's just say, the one that likes to have a fragrance, like he goes and he takes a shower and after that he's clean, you know, he's ready to apply a fragrance, he grabs for whatever type of fragrance, you know. Yeah, so from this perspective, I feel like it embodies more of a raw, untamed masculinity, you know, not the very polished one to me. Yeah, beautiful fragrance. I wouldn't picture this fragrance on women, honestly. But this is the kind of fragrance that my partner could wear, that my father could wear, that my brother could wear, you know? Even though I feel like because it has this gentle, spicy, peppery, a little bit of something lemony and bitter, refreshing green on a woody base type of aura, to me this doesn't feel youthful. This, again, feels quite mature. To me, this has something from a barbershop fragrance without fully going into that direction, you know? But this is not that typical designer aquatic, like blue, freshy, aquatic marine, salty marine, fresh citrusy, that type of scent, with something a little bit woody. It has this undertone of something bitter, that to me, this is what makes this fragrance stand out. Like if someone were to ask me, okay, but for you, what is that aspect that makes this fragrance stand out? I'd say it's the bitter accord and how it's done here and this raw, untamed effect it adds, and there I see a little bit more mature. Okay, so those are my thoughts on Colossal. Let's move on to a fragrance that really didn't do much for me personally, so we can just get it over with, because then the other 3 fragrances left, they are very beautiful and they really surprised me, each in a specific way. Now, this fragrance, I don't want to say it's a bad fragrance, it's just the opposite of everything I'm looking for in a fragrance. But taking my personal taste out of discussion, this is not a bad fragrance. But I think, again, this was created with a very specific target audience in mind, and I am everything but that target audience, let's just say. This is called Green Mandarin from Rogue. I think this is the EDP, and this is inspired by a fragrance from John Malone, something with mandarin. Yeah, now look you guys, this fragrance, this to me in a nutshell, I feel like this gives me old money vibes. This gives me effortlessly, soft, quiet luxury, put together, well-behaved, well-mannered, proper etiquette, all that sort, you know? So from this perspective, this is a citrusy fragrance. There's not too citrusy, not too sweet, not too refreshing, not to this, not to that. It's a very, again, well-mannered fragrance, you know? Yeah, and I like my fragrances to be a bit more wild, let's just say. Yeah, this is for a proper man or woman, in my mind. This is a unisex. I feel like men could wear it easily, women could wear it easily. Bottom line is you need to have a taste for citruses. However, if you do have a taste for citruses, this is, it might seem like a very simplistic fragrance, but I can tell you from testing it, it's not a simplistic fragrance. This feels quite complex and it has quite an amazing lasting power for a citrusy fragrance. So this opens up with something a little bit refreshing, but a different type of refreshing than Colossal. To me, Colossal was your typical manly man type of fragrance. This to me, this is elegant, this is suave, this is gentle yet present. I pick up something sparkly and citrusy and effervescent. I don't know why, something like lemon, bergamot, that type. But I also pick up something bitter green, like a citrus peel type of accord. So I'm imagining in my mind, it's like you have the juice of a citrus. So it's quite effervescent and refreshing to a certain extent. And then you have that citrus peel, so it adds a little bit of something, again, bitter and fresh, but a citrusy kind of freshness. Yeah, this smells green, you guys. This smells green. I don't pick up anything sweet in the opening, but as the fragrance develops, let's just say amongst the citrus bouquet, I start to pick up gentle mandarin-like facets that do add a pinch, like not even like half a pinch of something sweet to the blend. But I wouldn't recommend you to get this fragrance if you're looking for a sweet citrus. No, this is a sophisticated, serious, again, old money, quiet luxury, that type of citrus accord to me. Not just citrus accord, that type of citrusy forward fragrance to me. I also pick up a gentle woody facet in the background at this current moment on. So as a standalone accord, even though the citrus feels quite bright, quite light, quite airy with all its facets, to me you have a woody accord that quite grounds this fragrance. Yeah, now as it develops, I do pick up this, again, bitter, citrusy, refreshing citrusy. I start to pick up, again, like I've mentioned, something from a sweet mandarin, a touch of something powdery, irisy, again, that grounds the blend with something woody in the background. Gentle, airy florals, but throughout the development of the fragrance, at no moment on this leans more towards the feminine side or more towards the masculine side. To me, if I were to imagine what kind of man would pull off this fragrance, I feel like a man who's in touch with his emotions for some reason. I think someone who's a little bit more empathic, who's a little bit more intuitive, you know, not the man that would wear this fragrance is not the man that would wear Colossal, if you ask me. No, this one would be more of a sensitive man, but again, not sensitive in a negative way, because I don't think sensitivity is a negative trait at all. I just think someone who feels everything more deeply, you know, who has this soft side to him. Yeah. And as a woman, the woman she's neither too provocative, promiscuous, sexy, but no, she's elegant, she's put together in a very classy manner. So I had to take a little bit of a break, but I'm back. Now, let's continue. Let me just make a little bit of space. Okay, let's continue with a fragrance that truly stood out to me if you're a tobacco lover. This is called Majestic Empire, and this again is the extract version. And this is their inspiration of Herod from Parfums I. I kind of want to spray this fragrance on my skin. Let me just spray this fragrance on my skin. It's so oily, you guys. This is such a beautiful tobacco fragrance. Dare I say, this is the most refined and elegant tobacco fragrance I've tried. The tobacco is done in such a beautiful way, and this comes from someone who loves tobacco fragrances, so I've tried a handful of them. Also, let me show you how oily this is. Do you see the level of oiliness this fragrance has? It's crazy, like legit, you guys, like as I don't know if you see, but it legit feels and looks like I am rubbing oil everywhere, you know? This is how oily this fragrance is, so it's very concentrated, but it's something so interesting they created with this blend here, because even though the fragrance itself feels so concentrated, I mean, you saw how oily it is, in the opening, it has this refined, gentle, muted quality about it. It's almost like the scent is a little bit closed off and mysterious, you know? It's like half of the scent is hiding a little bit. And I pick up this gentle, well-rounded tobacco accord that's dry for sure. It has this cherry undertone about it, but almost like a cherry spicy touch about it without the cherries and the spices taking over the tobacco accord. This tobacco at this moment on has absolutely nothing green about it. And I think the tobacco is warm, is gentle, is that type of tobacco you'd smoke in pipes, in my mind, for instance. You know, it's not a tobacco core that comes across as a cigarette or anything of that sort. No, to me, this is the tobacco that you'd put to smoke in pipes, and it has that very specific and distinctive quality about it. Yes, it's warm, it's gentle, it's dry. I do pick up, like I've mentioned, a gentle cherry-like fessor. Something a little bit spicy, cinnamony. Now I haven't smelled Harrod from Parfums I to be able to compare the two, but I can tell you that this one, Majestic Empire, as a standalone fragrance, brilliant if you love tobacco. Now, dare I say this is a unisex tobacco. It's less sweet than Amber Oud tobacco from Tom Ford, than Amber Oud tobacco from Al Haramain or Tobacco Vanille from Tom Ford. I just mixed the two. Anyways, so it's less sweet than that. It does have sweetness, but again, it's a little bit different. That's a honey tobacco with a lot of different spices, with the spice bouquet. Here it's a warm, gentle tobacco. It's almost like it's not lit, by the way, because I don't pick up anything smoky about it, but it's such a smooth and refined blend. Dare I say, you know how some tobacco accords in fragrances can feel pretty loud, pretty harsh, pretty abrasive, sharp here and there. Think Red Tobacco from Mandarin. Even though I love that fragrance. But this, you guys, hands down, is the most elegant take on tobacco I've tried, and is the most refined take on tobacco. And here the tobacco is the spotlight, is the star of the show, from the opening till the hard part, and from the hard part till the dry down. This, let's just say, compared to other fragrances that have a tobacco core, but the tobacco acts more as a base in a way to hold all the other notes. Here the tobacco is the spotlight, and the way it's done, it's like you have a one singular tobacco cord with all these different gentle facets about it, you know. It has this rich, ambery warmth and richness about it. It's almost like it exudes heat from within. So it's almost like you have this thick blanket of fragrance around you, but as I'm smelling this fragrance, sometimes I can sense it's not a fully opaque fragrance, you know what I mean? It has this almost like oily, translucent undertone about it that kind of coats all the other notes. So in a way, some of the notes come across as a little bit more muted, but not muted that you cannot smell them. It's just muted like the volume is turned a little bit more low on that specific note or accord, you know. This is how it works in my mind. Now, see, slowly but surely as the fragrance develops, I feel like what happens is the scent slowly opens up. It still maintains this gentle, muted-like undertone, but I start to pick up a little bit more of the sweetness. It's almost like the tobacco now has a gentle, vanillic-like undertone behind it. I pick up a touch of something green, not really patchouli, but something green and dark and grounding, almost like this deep forest green type of color. I don't think this is the kind of fragrance that goes through such a crazy development. I think this follows more or less a linear development. The changes are subtle, but they're present. Now, what to tell you about this fragrance? I feel like if you are curious, or perhaps you love the DNA of Harrod, I don't know because I never smelled it. Perhaps you love the DNA of Harrod from Parfums and you are looking for a more affordable inspiration that does justice to a tobacco accord, I would highly encourage you to try this one. Now look, this is the extract version, okay? So you saw how oily it is. Like, I will show you again. And remember, this is after I've rubbed a little bit of the fragrance in. But can you just compare, you guys? Like, legit, it looks like I've applied body oil everywhere on my skin. I would just recommend you to try it. Get a sample, get a decant, and try it if you love tobacco. This is the kind of tobacco that I would imagine it for weddings on a man or on a woman who has this more of an assertive aura about her, or perhaps she wants to feel more confident and empowered that day. To me, this feels powerful, this feels confident, this feels a little bit mysterious, a little bit alluring, you know, but overall this fragrance exudes power to me. And this refined, elevated touch about it. Very beautiful fragrance. Again, top 5 from Rogue Perfumes. Easily. Now let's move on to this fragrance. Let's move on to Rouge Mystique. This is an inspiration from BDK. I will add the fragrance here, you guys. The opening feels like a juxtaposition of two very contrasting and polar opposite notes. Elixir feels like you have chalk powder everywhere on a table. So it's dusty, powdery. And then you'd pour on top of that chalk powder like cherry juice for some reason. And to me, the effect that would result is how this fragrance opens up. So the cherry feels juicy in the opening. The cherry legit feels like a juicy cherry juice type of accord. So it feels very vibrant and it has this not really dewy quality about it because it's not, but juicy, for sure, very juicy. So my camera decided to cut and I was not paying attention at the time. So here am I. I don't think I remember where I was when the camera decided to cut, but I will just talk about this fragrance and about that part as well. So guys, I was talking about this fragrance and I was telling you, I think the opening of the fragrance, I got it on camera, but I think after that I was discussing how this fragrance legit smells like you'd pour in the opening cherry juice on top of chalk powder because it has such a distinctive effect in the opening. And the fragrance, the more it sits on your skin, it does evolve and it does change. And the cherry, from feeling like a very juicy type of cherry that feels vibrant and red. And I was telling you that if I would have to associate a color or like two colors with this fragrance, in my mind, it would be like a red square with like white circles in it for some reason, you know, because it smells red and white in the opening. And also, let me just show you how oily this fragrance is. Do you see? And this is the regular version. Like, see, as I'm smelling it now, I can already sense that it has started to change. So that dusty chalk powder accord moved a little bit in the background. I do still pick it up, but now the overall fragrance got much more sweeter, almost a tad more creamy. For me, it's almost like something almondy with a touch of something cherry with vanilla. You know, it has this creamy, not really, I guess a little bit of a nutty quality about it, but it's creamy and nutty at the same time, but not very nutty, you know, it's more creamy. I start to pick up gentle floral-like facet. It feels dry, it feels dusty, but then at the same time it feels juicy. It's such an interesting fragrance. Yeah, this to me smells feminine, it smells elegant, it smells gentle, it smells not really angelic, but it smells like that kind of woman that's very soft in her mannerisms, in how she speaks, in how she dresses. She's very soft and gentle, you know, like her aura is very soft and gentle. This to me is a fragrance that would embody this. Yeah, and it's so crazy how the texture plays into the fragrance, because legit, you guys, it has such contrasting facets put together that in a way they emphasize each other even more, and it results into a fragrance that feels so vibrant and layered. But all I can tell you is that if you are curious to try this fragrance, definitely start with a sample or start with a decant. This, to me, this is the regular fragrance. And again, this is extremely oily, like extremely oily. Brilliant fragrance is that day-to-day elegant fragrance that's not too serious, that's not too rigid. It feels a little bit soft, but then it has some creaminess, it has some depth about it. And it smells vibrant, colorful for some reason. Very colorful and vibrant and layered. It's such a contrasting fragrance, but very well done. So yes, now let's move on to the last fragrance. Let's move on to Heritage Elixir. Again, this is the extract version. I think this is again an inspiration to a fragrance from Parfums de. If I remember correctly, I think Layton. But I haven't smelled that fragrance anyways, even if it's Layton, so I'm not going to be able to compare the two. But I will tell you what I think about this as a standalone fragrance. So let me spray it. A lot of different things are happening. Something like freshly grounded cardamom. So it's a spicy green, fresh aura from the cardamom with this green apple accord that adds this burst of freshness, but a fruity freshness, something creamy and vanillic, a touch of patchouli that adds again a little bit of greenness and depth, a touch of something tonka that adds again something creamy and dense. Yeah, this, you guys, this I think it's a masculine leaning fragrance, but I could definitely picture women who would wear this fragrance because it does have sweetness about it. It's not the kind of fragrance that feels too refreshing, too fresh, too typically that raw masculine fragrance. It's interesting because the apple, I feel like, shines so much, and it has something sweet, but in my mind it's almost like the apple with that something vanillic in the background. But then you get the cardamom that adds a lot of vibrancy to the opening of the fragrance, but it doesn't cut from the creaminess. For some reason, this feels like a very creamy fragrance. If I would have to put like colors to this fragrance, to me it would smell like yellow and green. But not like those very saturated neon colors, no, like something a little bit more gentle. Yeah, I think this is more casual than the first one, than Colossal. more casual, more laid back. This is that sporty fragrance, casual, dress it up, dress it down, quite a simplistic, straightforward day-to-day fragrance that manages to stand out, let's just say. And I think it stands out because of the way they did the green apple, because it has some sweetness about it, and because this doesn't come across like that after the shower or like shower gel leaning kind of masculine fragrance to me, because this has some creaminess, because this has a gentle nutty undertone, because this has the green apple. Yes, of course, it's darkened by a little bit of patchouli, by something like a gentle woodsy or by a little bit of cardamom. Not it's darkened, but it adds the cardamom here, a lot of vibrancy. Yeah, but for some reason, this still manages to maintain some airiness, some breeziness throughout the composition. Beautiful fragrance, you guys, beautiful fragrance. Definitely much more casual. I could picture this fragrance again on 17 and up, let's just say, or like 18 and up, you know, like, yeah. It's not a fragrance that feels too serious, too rigid, to this, to that, the third. It's not overly complicated, you know. To me, the vibe this fragrance gives me is put together, but in a very casual and laid-back manner, you know. Yeah, I think these are my thoughts about the fragrance. I am one who loves on man or on my partner, let's just say, either more woodsy, spicy fragrances, either some fragrances with tobacco. I prefer either darker fragrances, like for instance, Ebba Gold. I love how Ebba Gold smells like on my partner. But when it comes to fragrances like this, I don't think I would mind it on him. But for some reason, for instance, I prefer to smell Herod on him. I'd prefer to smell Colossal, the first fragrance, on him. Those are my thoughts on these fragrances, on the last 5 fragrances. If you have any fragrances from Rogue Perfumes that caught your eye, that caught your attention, and you'd like me to cover them in a review, let me know and I will go on Dubai Collections website and I will get some decants. I told you, I really want to try that inspiration of Burberry Goddess, because I still feel like I haven't found an inspiration of Burberry Goddess that gives me the same effect I want Burberry Goddess, or like, let's just say that the OG gives me. But yes, now, should I make a top? You guys, it's hard. It's very hard to make a top. So I feel like the fragrances that stood out to me the most. Oh, I have another one that's called Velvet Tonka. That's an inspiration to another fragrance from BDK, but that I will review it in a different fragrance, Then I want to review it in a different video with Laris Absolue. I completely forgot the name, like my mind just went blank for a second. With Laris Absolue from Arabia Prestige, with Shagaf Oud Tonka from Swiss Arabia, and I want to compare the 3. But I feel like as a conclusion, let's just say, don't skip out on this brand. They have outstanding inspirations. Some are extremely oily that you like it's even hard to imagine like how they can do such well done fragrances for such affordable prices. Now, if I were to make a top with the fragrances that stood out to me the most, 28 flavors, but in no particular order, okay, like 28 flavors for sure. Mango Delicioso. Let me think. Tobacco Rose, that's a beautiful, beautiful chocolatey rosy fragrance with tobacco. Then Velvet Tonka, or Velvety Tonka, I think it's called, that one from Rogue. Anyways, Velvety Tonka, Alluring Essence. This one, Majestic Empire, Rouge Mystique. I think these 7 were the ones that stood out to me the most, and that I would wear them myself, you know, like some of them I have even worn them myself. Now, when it comes to other fragrances that stood out to me, but perhaps they're not really my cup of tea, or that I wouldn't wear them as standalone fragrances, Jewel of Kuwait, that fragrance, brilliant, like Jewel of Kuwait, brilliant fragrance if you're an oud lover. Nectar Oud if you love leather, and if you love the DNA of hibiscus, not hibiscus mahajad, oh my god. Oud Maracuya from Maison Crivelli. Beautiful one to take into account, but you need to be comfortable with wearing fragrances with a very heavy and dominant leathery accord. So this is everything I wanted to tell you about these fragrances and about Rogue Perfumes, let's just say, as a conclusion on the brand. Don't forget that you can find samples, decants, as well as full bottles on Dubai collection. So in case you want to explore this brand more, I would generally recommend you to start with samples. Buy more samples, test them, and see what you think about them. Yes, thank you so much for watching. Like I've mentioned, feel free to check them out on Dubai collection. The code AFG10 gives you extra 10% off. Feel free to use it, feel free to not use it. I will close up the video because I want to film some videos after. Don't forget you can follow me on Instagram. If you want to tell me anything, please put it in the comment section and I promise that I will get back to you. I will see you in my next video, but until then, I want to wish you an amazing day wherever you are. Bye guys.